The school courtyard was silent, except for the sound of her muffled sobs. Students stood frozen, their whispers cutting like knives through the cold morning air. Emily Hart, the quietest girl in the entire school, clutched the torn edges of her uniform as humiliation burned her face. Moments ago, she had been just another unnoticed student in the back row of the assembly. Now, she was the center of the cruelest spectacle of her life. It all began that morning when the students were called for the weekly assembly. Emily, as usual, stood at the far end, hoping to disappear among the sea of uniforms. She always kept her head down. Her thick glasses, her nervous hands fidgeting with her skirt, and the way she avoided eye contact made her a favorite target for the school bullies, particularly Mia and her clique. Mia had always hated Emily for a reason no one understood. Maybe it was because Emily never reacted to their taunts, or maybe because Mia thrived on attention while Emily stayed quietly in her world. As the principal droned on about school discipline and achievements, Mia whispered to her friends with a wicked smile. "Watch this," she muttered. Before Emily could move away, she felt a sharp tug from behind. The ripping sound was loud enough for the first rows to hear. Gasps spread like wildfire as Emily froze, realizing her skirt had been torn along the seam. Her trembling hands tried to cover herself as the snickers began, and then the laughter. Students started recording with their phones. Her world spun, her face red with shame, and tears blurred her vision. She ran. Out of the assembly hall. Down the empty corridor. Into the girls' bathroom, where she locked the door and broke down, her sobs echoing against the tiles. What Emily didn't know was that this moment, this heartbreak, was about to change everything. Her father, Richard Hart, wasn't just an ordinary parent. He was the man who had rebuilt the very school she attended after donating millions for its expansion. He was a respected figure, loved for his generosity and leadership. But to Emily, he was just Dad, the man who always told her, "Never let anyone decide your worth." When he arrived at school that day for a scheduled board meeting, he was greeted by chaos. A teacher had found Emily sobbing and immediately called her father. When he saw his daughter, her uniform ripped and her face buried in her hands, his heart sank. He knelt beside her, his voice breaking. "Emily, who did this?" She hesitated, still shaking. I don't want to make it worse." Her father's tone grew firm. "They've already hurt you. Let me help now." Through broken words, Emily explained everything. The bullying, the whispers, the cruel jokes, and finally, the assembly humiliation. Richard's jaw tightened. Without raising his voice, he walked straight to the principal's office. Minutes later, a school-wide announcement called every student back to the auditorium. When Emily entered with her father by her side, the room fell silent. The very students who had laughed at her were now holding their breath. Richard stepped onto the stage, his deep voice echoing through the hall. "Today," he said, "I saw the ugliest side of this school. A side I will not tolerate. My daughter was humiliated by some of you, and the rest of you stood by and watched." The weight of his words hung heavy. Mia and her clique shifted uncomfortably in the front row. This school was built on values, respect, kindness, and courage. But today, my daughter showed more courage than anyone here. She has endured your laughter, your whispers, and your cruelty, and she is still standing. Emily's tear-streaked face lifted for the first time. Then, Richard said something no one expected: "From this day forward, any act of bullying will not only be met with strict consequences, but I will personally make sure the victims get the support they deserve. And to the ones who did this." He turned his eyes to Mia, who looked like she wanted to vanish. "You will apologize, and you will learn what it means to respect another human being." The room was silent. Slowly, Mia and her friends approached Emily, their faces pale. I'm sorry," Mia stammered. "I went too far." Emily didn't respond at first. Her heart still hurt, but she remembered her father's words. She finally whispered, "I forgive you, but I won't forget." Over the next few weeks, the school changed. Emily wasn't invisible anymore. Students who had once laughed at her began greeting her in the hallways, and teachers started workshops on kindness and anti-bullying. Mia, under the principal's orders, joined Emily in community service projects as part of her punishment, and, surprisingly, they started to talk. Slowly, hostility turned to understanding. Emily's confidence grew. She joined the art club, showcased her paintings at the next school exhibition, and even gave a small speech about kindness during assembly, a speech that earned her a standing ovation. By the end of the year, Emily was no longer the shy girl. She was the girl who had survived humiliation, faced her fears, and inspired a school to change. The message she left behind was simple but unforgettable. You are stronger than the voices that try to break you. And sometimes, the world only notices your light after someone tries to dim it. This story flows smoothly for a 15-minute YouTube video, with emotional highs and lows, a powerful climax, and an inspiring ending. If you want, I can now convert this into a ready-to-read YouTube narration script with timing and emotional cues to maximize engagement for your video. Do you want me to do that?